All right, so let's try to tackle a little bit more of a complex topic today, and I apologize in advance for what's likely to be a very long-winded introduction with a lot of disclaimers, but I do want to be pretty responsible in how it is that I approach this topic because I feel I risk coming off like I'm making a hit piece on Zaire Franklin, and I kind of want to get ahead of that before that is, I don't know, assumed to be my intention. Like, one of the things I've always said here, and for those of you guys who are around often, you've probably heard me say this on a number of occasions. Perhaps some of the newer people have never heard me say this, and you're going to hear me say it for the first time. My goal over here on this channel, over all else, when it comes to the content that I bring you, is to push the discussion about the Indianapolis Colts further, right? To elevate the level of discourse that we're having about this team, okay? Now, sometimes that's a real easy thing to do. And when I mean easy, and when I say easy, I don't mean like like easy to organize my thoughts and easy to come in front of the microphone and speak to you. I mean easy in the sense that there is no like moral dilemma that I face in doing it. Like, it's pretty low friction in that regard. It's based on what happens in between the lines. I talk about what I see on the field and then I bring it to you, okay? That's generally how we approach it over here. But other times, kind of like right now, I do feel a bit more uncomfortable in terms of like, is this something I should be talking about? Is there something inherently disrespectful about me approaching this topic? Do I risk coming off in a way that perhaps I wouldn't want to come off? So I do just feel the need to say that. Now, with that said, I would like to point something out that I think Colts fans would find interesting, and it's the fact that Zaire Franklin has not recorded a single episode of The Trenches this offseason, okay? Now, I know a lot of you guys are thinking, well, of course he doesn't because he was just doing that during the season. Like, no, he wasn't just doing that during the season. That's when we heard about it. This time last year, they were full steam ahead on a weekly basis, I think. I know they were making episodes. Weekly basis may be a lie, but they were full steam ahead making episodes of The Trenches, okay? And at the end of the year, Zaire Franklin was asked by a media member about some of the lessons he learned this year, and Zaire spoke about how he needed to reflect on the season, how he needed to maybe reevaluate what it was that he was doing, right? As a player, as a man, all of that stuff. And he said that his involvement in the trenches would be a part of that reevaluation. And in the moment, I wasn't sure if he was just saying that to kind of cover his ass or if he really meant that. But, you know, as I said, he has not made an episode yet, okay? So I'm sure that fact, coupled with what he said at the end of the season, is music to many of yours ears. And as I approach this topic, I'm sure a lot of you guys would love for me to just kind of tear Zaire and the show through the mud, right? And just talk about how the podcast was a distraction to the team and all the problems that it brought and how his eye wasn't on the prize and it has these negative implications and it was bad for the culture of the Indianapolis Colts, all that stuff. And by the way, all that stuff might be true, okay, particularly in terms of distraction to the team. Like, only Zaire himself knows how it affected his individual preparation and drive to be the best version of himself every Sunday. So I'm not going to sit here and make it like I know what his day-to-day is, right? Like, I have a podcast myself, so I can say, listen, there's preparation that goes into it. It's not easy to come out here and be consistent with this, but at the same time, it's not like you couldn't take on anything else. Like, I have a full-time job and I cook and right? So like, it's not like you couldn't do something else if you had a podcast. But given all of that, and knowing what you guys might want, which is kind of for me to come at this like the angry fan, right? To approach it like the angry fan, which again, I could do, and I would have plenty of reasons to be upset. I'm going to try to come at this thing a little bit differently because the truth is, I don't really take any pride in speaking negatively about players. Like, I don't want to sit here and come out and talk bad about a guy, particularly someone that I kind of have a level of respect for. And while some degree I do understand that that's kind of part of what they signed up for, becoming an NFL athlete, I just don't personally feel it's right. Like, as fans, so often we sort of look at athletes and just completely remove the human side of things, right? Like, we'll just call these dudes bums, we'll call them scrubs, and we'll say some pretty gnarly stuff. Like, you go through any comment section on Reddit and you'll see some crazy shit getting said about these dudes. And for me personally, like, I just don't feel it's a productive use of my platform to approach it that way. Like, I think Zaire Franklin, probably a good dude, okay? I know he's a hell of a football player, whether you guys want to admit that or not, okay? He has earned every single thing that he has gotten the hard way, okay? He went from 7th round pick out of Syracuse, and me being a native New Yorker myself, odds are if he went to Syracuse, it's not like he was some sort of 4 or 5 star prospect, okay? So at no point did he have an easy path. And he went from that to being an NFL top 100 player, okay? That right there is an extraordinary accomplishment, okay? And I feel that a guy of that magnitude, it really, I look at as someone who's kind of aspiring to become a better version of myself. I look at a guy like Zaire Franklin and say, well, okay, not for anything, I can respect what he's doing. And I also feel he tries to use his platform in a positive way, right? Like I've been seeing stuff on Instagram about the work he's doing with Shalice's Angels, which I believe he established himself. Okay. And it's meant to serve young women and teach them to be the best version of themselves. They give out an annual scholarship, all this type of stuff. Okay. And it's the type of thing that would not get covered. Like no one would know if Zaire Franklin wasn't doing that type of work. Like the amount of philanthropic work that these players do that just gets no coverage at all. I mean, they are doing that strictly out of the labor of love. Like they're not getting recognized for that type of stuff. Okay, even the trenches in of itself, to bring it back to kind of what it is that we're talking about. In many ways, I feel, was trying to connect with the fans in a way that perhaps they don't get to connect with other players. And I think in many ways, a lot of us enjoyed that level of access to Zaire and EJ, particularly in the early stages of the podcast. So while Zaire Franklin is out here working hard, and while I feel that he's doing his best he can as a man to kind of use his platform for good, I would admittedly feel like a little bit of a shithead to just come here and, out of the comfort of my own home, disrespect him in ways that I would never do to his face, right? Like, I do feel the need to be genuine in that regard. Like, I'm not going to be one person behind the camera, behind the microphone, and a different person to, in real life, right? Like, I try to come here and be my authentic self. Now, I say all of that, right? There's my long-winded disclaimer. I say that to make sure my intentions are clear before we get into the topic, because I do feel that there is an opportunity to talk about a larger topic in the league, and it is the idea of players having podcasts, right? Like, we are going to explore this topic through the lens of what we as Colts fans experienced with Zaire Franklin and EJ Speed in their weekly episodes with the trenches throughout the course of the season. And we all know how that kind of blew up in the face of them and how it blew up in the face of the Indianapolis Colts. But this is not a discussion that is unique to the Indianapolis Colts. Like, this is happening all around the league. There's players on almost every team probably that have podcasts at this point. And right off the bat, like, I do recognize there's a clear irony in me discussing this, right? Like, particularly if I'm going to be critical of players' involvement, which I absolutely am, which is why I felt the need to put that disclaimer at the top of the show, okay? I sit here behind the microphone and I'm playing the same game myself, right? Like, I'm talking into the mic all the same. I want my opinion to be heard, but there's a fascinating discussion about the players doing this type of thing, particularly during the season, not only about its potential effects on the team, right? But there's also the dynamic between the player and the fans and the media at that, right? Like, what are the players' responsibilities to the fans and the media? Do they have any at all? Hell, while we're sitting here, have you ever taken the time to think about what maybe our responsibility as fans is to these players of the teams that we support? Again, is there any responsibility there at all? Like, why does it piss us off so much to watch players make content like the content that I'm making for you right now? And mostly, I mean, there's some people that get pissed off with me, but generally speaking, when I make the content, it's appreciated. But when a player does, it's kind of viewed in a different light. So we're going to discuss everything that I just mentioned in an episode that is bound to be, if it's not already, different than most anyone that I've ever recorded. And quite frankly, I'm not entirely sure how it is that this is going to be received. I'm not even sure if you guys are going to find this all that interesting, because this is a bit experimental in nature for me. This is kind of an expansion of what it is that I normally talk about, albeit this is absolutely framed through the story of the Indianapolis Colts. I just feel compelled to talk about it. I feel like it's an interesting topic, and at a slow time in the offseason, maybe just a little bit of a change of pace. So let's get into it. But before we do, you know what it is? My name is Justin. This right here is the Behind the Bench Colts podcast. As always, ask everyone watching and enjoying the show, go ahead, shoot a like. It's going to help me get out to as many Colts fans as humanly possible. Of course, subscribe if you want to be a part of the journey. We're on the quest to 4,000 subscribers over here on the YouTube channel. We're not all that close, but we want to get there by the start of next season, so we have quite a bit of time. So perhaps it's your first time here and you're enjoying what you're seeing, or perhaps you're one of these people that keeps coming back and is yet to hit the button. Maybe today's the day. Maybe it's not. No pressure. I'll be here doing this for a very long time. Of course, audio listeners, leave a five star, five-star review. Let the people know how much you're enjoying the show. But most importantly, be civil in the comments section. You don't know what the person on the other side of the keyboard is going through today. We want to make sure that we're elevating the discussion here, not degrading it into complete nonsense. Okay, that's just not kind of what we're trying to do over here. But with all of that out of the way, let's get back into what it is that we were talking about before I started asking you to do things for me, right? We were talking about the dynamic between the players and the fans and the media at that, right? The media and the fans kind of similar in some ways, right? Like they hold a similar role, but perhaps the ones in the media just have a larger voice, right? Now, the most important of that dynamic, the most important discussion point in that dynamic is the players' obligations to the fans and the media's, because I feel like it's something that the players often miss. Whether they realize it or not, the fans and the media are the ones that pay their contracts, right? Like, if the fans didn't buy the tickets, if the fans didn't show up to the games, if they didn't buy the jerseys, talk online, spread the message, the media all the same, these are the things, right, that ultimately generate the revenue for the team, that generate the revenue for the league, that ultimately drive up the price that the players can demand because they know how much money they, as a call it a product, which sounds kind of weird, but sure, if your team is a business, you're a product of that business, you know that you're contributing to that team making money, right? Let alone the fact that those within Indianapolis and maybe Indiana overall, like, I'm not really sure. I mean, I live in New York. Like, I don't really know the politics of all this stuff, right? I'm just talking about the truth of the matter is most cities, most states fund the stadiums with taxpayer dollars. And I know that over $100 million in taxpayer dollars went to fund Lucas Oil Stadium when it was put up. Okay. In other words, the fans in many ways are shareholders of the team, and any business's job, first and foremost, is to provide value to their shareholders, okay? The NFL is the business of winning, okay? So when they want to provide value to their shareholders, their job is to win. And the NFL, lucky for them, is the only business in the world that the shareholders don't want a monetary return on their investment, okay? They don't care. They will pour thousands of dollars into your product without any chance of making any of it back. All they want is for you to win. So if they're looking at you and you're not winning, despite their support, despite the price they pay for the ticket, despite the time that they set aside every week to watch the games, they have the right to look at you, to look at the organization, the team, and ask some questions and point out issues. Okay, now the conclusions they come to and the issues they may bring up, they may not always be the right things to bring up. In fact, oftentimes I'll be the first to admit I don't feel they're the right things to bring up. You guys that are here all the time know I'm constantly disagreeing with sort of the consensus opinions on the Indianapolis Colts. I guess I'm a contrarian by nature, but other times they're legitimate, okay? Like, there's times where, for example, if you're Zaire Franklin, you're out here calling the Giants trash and then getting run out of the stadium by them. And I'm not talking about the Colts. The defense got punked by one of the worst offenses in the league, and they catch you talking crazy about the New York Giants, basically calling them trash on your episode during the season, right? You're out here celebrating victories and not talking about the losses. You're clapping back at fans and members, prominent members of the media, for their opinions of what it is that you're doing in a way that is adversarial, in a way that is really kind of a clapback at these people, at these shareholders, taking their right to their opinion as an insult, while you as an individual are making more money in 2 seasons than most any of these people, including myself, are going to sniff in our entire lives. So if you're to do that type of thing, if you're to engage in that type of activity, what exactly is it as a player that you expect to happen? You think that the fans are going to take well to that? Now, I know the response to you is, well, I don't really care what it is that the fans are going to take from that. I'm out here doing me. And my point in that is, I feel you're missing the mark by holding that as your opinion. Like, these people are the shareholders, okay? You are representing not just yourself. In this case, you are not just in the business of Zaire Franklin, okay? You're representing the organization. You're in the business of the Indianapolis Colts. So, in other words, you're in the business of winning, okay? This isn't some targeted attack at you from a fan base, albeit I admit it can lack humanity at times, right? But when you face backlash from the fans, backlash from guys in the media that perhaps are supposed to have the Colts back, these are self inflicted wounds, the likes of which many would argue, again, there's zero reason for you to be engaging in because you're the one making all the money off of this relationship. And I know I may sound like a pocket watcher. I get that, but trust me, I'm not mad at anyone for making their money. Like, there's no one that likes people making money more than me. Okay, I'm a capitalist at heart, but at the same time, you're the one that gets to play the game, right? You're the one that gets to live out your dream. Now, albeit this is because of your hard work and sacrifice, I understand that, but you're the one making the money. Your impact on the game is felt every single week. You are living out the dreams of millions upon millions upon millions of people in the country, okay? And then when things don't go your way, you want to turn and point the finger at them like you're the victim? You want to sit and point the finger at the media who have none of the luxuries that you have? In my opinion, it just shows kind of a lack of grace, a lack of appreciation, awareness, whatever the word is that you want to put in there, of the situation that you are in, how you are perceived, and your role and your responsibility to your team, to your organization's image. You are a representative, okay? And if you are going to step into the forefront and let your voice be heard, that's a two-way street, okay? So when it's not going your way, you should act just as diplomatic, just as enthusiastic, handle it with as much stoicism and class as you would as when it is going your way, okay? That's the responsibility you have when you do that. And don't be surprised when people turn around and look at you when there's an issue because you're the one that volunteered to be in that position. Self inflicted wounds. So while your team is going through turmoil, not only are they're being asked about their poor performance, for example, your poor quarterback, right? And what he's going through, okay? But they're also being asked about you and the stuff that you're saying, okay? Because you feel the need to go online and talk shit with your boys, quite frankly, for a fraction of the amount of money that you're being paid to play. And I just don't fully understand. And I listen, there might be blind spots in my analysis here, but I'm just giving you how I feel, okay? And then, someone could come in and disagree and all that stuff. I just don't understand why players feel the need to do this type of stuff. Like, I know if I was in their spot, I certainly wouldn't, particularly in the middle of my primer. If I was trying to establish my place in the league's history, okay? End of my career, future Hall of Famer guaranteed, maybe different rules apply. But it just seems like in a league where you're here today and you're gone tomorrow, right? And just the way players get shuffled around, how quickly guys go from employed to unemployed, you just figure you wouldn't do anything to compromise that position for yourself, okay? Now, I'm not saying Zaire Franklin did all of those things, okay? Because that kind of turned into more of a general discussion in some sense, but he's guilty of many of them. He's guilty of quite a few of them. But for the sake of fairness, let's explore this from the other side, okay? Because if I turned it back around on you, the fans, and me, the fans, right? On us, the collective, the ones that outnumber the players, of all the things you say online about these NFL athletes, how many of them would you say to their face? Like, not out of fear, mind you, that they're going to sock you in the mouth. I'm just talking out of sheer human decency, out of grace. Like, do you feel any responsibility to be careful about how you speak? The answer to that might be no. I'm not trying to lead you into saying, yeah, man, I do feel bad about the way I talk. It's a literal question that I'm asking you because ultimately, we all want the same thing, right? We want the Colts to win. We want the players to perform. We want them to go out there and perform their best. And so often as fans, I feel we use our voice, which is a very, very, very loud one that the organization hears, okay? Your evidence of this is the way Chris Ballard has approached this offseason. We're shareholders. Our opinion matters. But oftentimes we use our voice to work against these guys as opposed to try to lift them up. And while I do feel we have the right to our opinion, it certainly doesn't mean we shouldn't try to be as fair as we possibly can and how it is that we voice it, particularly if we're in the business of holding the players and the organization accountable for what they say, okay? We don't get to be hypocrites, okay? We have to eat our own dog food. Like, there's responsibility here on both sides. And listen, maybe I'm being idealistic. Maybe this has nothing to do with the Indianapolis Colts. Maybe what I'm saying isn't even all that rooted in reality. But I just feel there has to be a better way to navigate the relationship between the player and the fan. And it's a topic like this I feel compelled to talk about because, well, I don't know, let me word it a different way. Hopefully, in an episode like today, you start to understand my mission here just a little bit more, and you take from that statement what you may. So, I'm curious to hear your thoughts about players making content. Do you love it? Do you hate it? How do you feel about where I stand on it? Yeah, want to know the answers to all that stuff. But until next time, my name is Justin. This right here is the Ryan the Bench Colts podcast. And as always, go Colts.